Hello, my friends. Welcome back. I'm grateful you're here with me today. So settle in, relax for a moment, and let your imagination open up. Because today, we're going to travel somewhere fascinating. We are going back to the year 1225, to a place in southern Italy, a quiet castle on a hill. The wind is cool, the walls are thick and old, and inside this castle, a baby boy is born. His family is rich and powerful. They have big plans for him. But this boy, he has other plans, plans that no one can imagine yet. His name is Thomas Aquinas, and one day, the whole world will listen to him. The castle was called Rocca. It sat high on a hill between Rome and Naples. It was a strong and beautiful place. Thomas was born there in the year 1225. His father was a knight. His mother came from a noble family. They were proud people, serious people. They believed in God, in power, and in tradition. From the very first days of Thomas's life, his family had a dream for him. They wanted him to become the abbot of Monte Cassino. This was a very important position in the church. It meant power. It meant money. It meant respect. But young Thomas was different. Even as a small child, he asked questions that surprised people. One day, when he was only 5 years old, he asked his teacher a question. A very simple question, but also a very deep one. He asked, "What is God?" His teacher did not answer, because no one really knew how to answer a child who asked with such seriousness. This little boy in a quiet castle on a hill was already searching, already listening, already beginning a long, long journey. And nobody knew yet just how far that journey would go. When Thomas was 5 years old, his family sent him to study at the monastery of Monte Cassino. This was a famous and ancient place. The monks there were serious men. They studied, they prayed, they lived quietly, and young Thomas studied with them. He was a quiet boy. He did not talk very much. He listened. He watched. He read every book he could find. The other boys sometimes laughed at him. He was big and slow in the way he moved. He did not run or shout like other children. He sat. He thought. He was calm and heavy, like a big, gentle animal. Some people called him the dumb ox. Dumb in Old English means quiet, not stupid, but they said it to laugh at him. They thought he was too slow, too silent, too simple. They were wrong. One of his teachers, a wise old man, watched Thomas carefully, and one day he said something that people still remember today. He said, "This ox will one day fill the whole world with his voice." Nobody believed him then, but the story of Thomas Aquinas was only just beginning, and the world was not ready for what was coming. Thomas grew older. He studied hard at Monte Cassino. Then, when he was around 14 or 15, he went to the University of Naples. This was a new and exciting place. Naples was a busy city, full of ideas, people, and noise. For a quiet boy from a castle on a hill, it was a new world. And in Naples, Thomas discovered something that changed everything. he discovered the writings of Aristotle. Aristotle was an ancient Greek philosopher. He lived more than 1,000 years before Thomas. He wrote about everything, about nature, about the mind, about how to live a good life. At that time, many people in the church were afraid of Aristotle. They thought his ideas were dangerous. They thought he asked too many questions. But Thomas was not afraid. He read Aristotle carefully and slowly, and he saw something beautiful. He saw that reason and faith could work together, that the mind and God were not enemies. This was a big and dangerous idea, and Thomas was ready to follow it, no matter where it led him. But first, something happened that would change the direction of his whole life. In Naples, Thomas met a group of men called the Dominicans. They were friars, traveling monks, poor men who walked from city to city teaching and preaching. They did not live in big, comfortable monasteries. They lived simply. They gave everything to learning and to God. Thomas watched them. He listened to them, and he felt something deep inside him. He wanted to join them. He wanted to live like them. When his family heard this, they were shocked, angry. His mother came quickly to Naples. She tried to stop him, but Thomas did not change his mind. So his brothers took him. They brought him back to the family castle and locked him inside. For almost 2 years, Thomas was kept in the castle. His family tried many things to make him forget the Dominicans. They sent him books, which he was happy to read. They sent him a beautiful woman to tempt him away from his religious life. Thomas did not stop. He did not give up. He prayed. He studied. He waited. And after 2 years, his family finally accepted. They opened the door, and Thomas walked out. He walked directly to the Dominicans. He never looked back. Thomas joined the Dominicans and began a new life. He traveled. He studied. He listened to the greatest teachers of his time. He went to Cologne in Germany to study with a famous teacher named Albertus Magnus. Albert was a brilliant man. He understood science, nature, and philosophy, and he saw immediately that Thomas was special. Remember the story of the dumb ox? Albert was the one who said those famous words about Thomas filling the world with his voice. Under Albert, Thomas grew fast. He studied Aristotle more deeply. He began to write. His mind was like a great, quiet river, slow on the surface, but very deep and very powerful below. Thomas believed that God gave humans 2 gifts, the gift of faith and the gift of reason. He believed that these 2 gifts must work together, not fight each other. This idea was new, it was brave, and it would become the foundation of his greatest work, a work so large, so deep, that people are still reading it today, almost 800 years later. Thomas began to teach and write in Paris. Paris was the center of learning in Europe. The University of Paris was the greatest university in the world at that time. Thomas taught there. He debated with other great thinkers. He was not a dramatic man. He did not shout or perform. He spoke quietly and clearly. He used simple logic, step by step, question by question. He had a special method. He always started with a question. Then he gave the arguments against his answer. Then he gave his own answer. Then he answered every argument, one by one. It was like watching a calm, strong man build a house, brick by brick. No hurry, no waste, just careful, honest work. His students loved him. Even people who disagreed with him respected him. And slowly, his name spread across Europe. Scholars came to hear him speak. Kings asked for his advice. The Pope himself trusted Thomas. But Thomas was not interested in power or fame. He was only interested in one thing: truth. The search for truth. This search never stopped, not for a single day of his life. Thomas Aquinas wrote many books, but his greatest work was called the Summa Theologica. In English, this means something like the complete summary of theology. It is a massive work, thousands of pages, millions of words. It covers almost every question about God, the human soul, morality, and the meaning of life. Thomas worked on it for years. He wrote every day. He dictated to his helpers. He rarely slept for long. He prayed before he wrote. He believed that good thinking was a form of prayer, that when you use your mind honestly and humbly, you are close to God. The Summa was never finished, not because Thomas gave up, but because something happened near the end of his life. Something quiet, something mysterious. One morning in December of 1273, Thomas was saying Mass, and during the Mass he stopped. He became very still. After a long silence, he said he could not write anymore. A friend asked him why. Thomas said, "Everything I have written seems like straw compared to what I have now seen." He never wrote again. Nobody knows exactly what he experienced that morning. But Thomas Aquinas, the man who spent his whole life using words to understand God, decided at the end that words were not enough. Thomas Aquinas died on the 7th of March, 1274. He was only 49 years old. He died on his way to an important church council. He was tired and ill. He stopped at a small monastery called Fossa Nova. The monks took care of him. He died quietly, peacefully. The man who had written millions of words died in a small, simple room, far from the great universities, far from the powerful people who admired him. Just a quiet man, a humble man, a man who spent his whole life learning, listening, and searching for something true. After his death, the Church studied his work carefully. In 1323, less than 50 years after he died, Thomas Aquinas was made a saint. Today, he is called the Doctor of the Church. His ideas are still taught in universities all over the world. The boy, who was called the dumb ox, became one of the greatest thinkers in all of human history. And the journey of his mind, the quiet, deep, powerful journey of Thomas Aquinas, is a journey that still continues today in every person who asks a serious question and is brave enough to follow it. So what can we learn from the story of Thomas Aquinas? We can learn that being quiet is not the same as being weak. Thomas was slow and silent as a child. People laughed at him. But he kept listening. He kept learning. He never gave up. We can also learn that asking questions is not dangerous. It is necessary. Thomas asked